Yep.
Okay, welcome to the March edition of the Neighbourhood Plan Working Group. Present in the room is Steve Williams, Chair, Philip, the Council, lay members of the committee, Andrew Quarry and John Decker, and Eve Haskins, the Town Clerk. So my first question is, are we quorate?
Yes.
Good. Yes.
Yes.
So the lay members actually count as good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Because we're low now, there's 2 people missing. That's the point there. Okay, so let's crack on then. Now I've ascertained that. So the first agenda point is, also I should say in the room is Lee Searles, our consultant on the camera. Sorry, Lee, I forgot you there. Okay, so agenda point 2223/69 is apologies for absence. Is
None received.
so the none received, so we will not note apologies for absence, there aren't any, and we won't receive and consider apologies for absence, and we won't be approving reasons for absence. So we'll move quickly on to 2223/70, disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest from councillors in the room for items on the agenda? No, none from me or Philippa. Have we received any written requests for dispensation? No. So we're not going to grant any requests for dispensation as appropriate. So 2223/71, minutes of the last meeting held on the 22nd of February as attached. Any of the persons present got any points to raise? There's a few items arising from them, which we can pick up in the agenda. But does everyone think they were true and accurate reading of it? Yeah. So proposed by John Decker, seconded by Philippa Gibbons. All in favour of accepting these? Thank you very much. That's so approved. 2223/72, confidential items to be discussed in the agenda after item 77. I don't have any. There aren't any sitting on the agenda. So, John, are you okay with that? Andrew?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So there are no confidential items to be discussed. So we'll move on to 2223/73, public participation. So we have 2 members of the public in the room at the moment. So members of the public reminded that this is your opportunity to speak to the meeting on any topic relevant to the work of the council. That's not necessarily the neighbourhood plan. That's any point whatsoever. However, they may not speak during the rest of the meeting unless specifically invited to do so by the chair. So would you like to contribute to the meeting at this point?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Okay, that's fine. So moving on then to 2223/74, the draft neighbourhood plan, to receive an update on and agree any actions recommendation needed to complete the document. Lee, I think from your point of view, you're probably going to say it's up to date because you did last month and nothing's changed. Is that a true and accurate statement? You're muted.
Yeah, there's nothing much changed really. It's just on a holding pattern, waiting for the design of the document to be complete. And yeah, I was just trying to think if there was anything we needed to sort out prior to going to consultation. And the only one that springs to mind is the whole position on screening for EIA. We established after the last meeting that the sum of all of the email responses and chasing by ACOM of the regulators who then didn't actually give you a clear view counts, and that we just make that all available to Bradford. And I guess
sorry, Lee, I was thinking on my memory of that, the SEA screening, wasn't even Philippa going to pull together a conglomeration of all the emails? Well, and
which we've got. Yeah. So the question, I suppose, then is at the point at which we go out, we make sure that whole package is with Ian, so they can they can see.
Okay. The only thing from my point of view is the town centre boundary. We haven't had an input from Bradford. Eve was
Yeah.
going to give him an email and add that to it. Do we know if they've replied yet? To no. Okay.
I think if he doesn't reply, I think you just go out to Reg 14, and if they respond and say we don't like that, then you can always take that into consideration before you go to Reg 15. It's not a massive problem. You know, you can act on the information you get in response.
Okay.
So I think if he's not responding, I wouldn't let it hold you up anymore.
No.
Should we chase him again though?
Well, you might as well up until the point at which you're ready to go. No harm.
We've got April and May before we go anywhere near Reg 14. So I would think there's no harm in chasing them again.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've checked the Bradford website. I'm not aware of anything new happening that would change your consideration at this point either. So, yeah, it's just steady as you go until we get the plan back from the designer.
You know the issue of the walls in Gorthorpe and Priesthorpe? You know, we changed the wording of the appendice to relate to areas as opposed to specific walls.
Yeah.
Do you have any objection to me releasing that to members of the public who were concerned?
No, not at all. No, I mean it's your call on how to do that. It's not a big issue to whether you share the information ahead.
Okay.
It's fine.
Well, we'll do that then, because you know, we have 14 coming up, Reg 16 coming out, which are formal consultations. But would we have to issue it to everyone concerned, or just people who are known to be concerned?
I don't think you need to issue it to everybody. If people have shown an interest, then you can send it to them. They'll get it as a whole during the Reg 14, therefore everyone will get a shot at responding to it then.
I'm hopeful many members of the parish will show some interest in Reg 14, but
Yeah.
I'm not overly confident. Would like some councillors to show some interest in it as well. Okay. All righty. Okay. So should we move on to the next agenda point then and talk about the document as it's designed now? Yes. We okay with that, Lee?
Yep.
Okay. So you okay with that, guys in the room?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So 22/23/75, the regulation 14 consultation. We're really talking about, are we ready for consultation, and whether Aldred Designs have done what they intended to do, which is to put the document into a nice Adobe PDF. Have you all had a chance to have a look at that now?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I've been through it. Yeah.
I'm
General
guilty of
views?
not saying not, but I have it.
You
Yeah.
have it, okay. Right, John, you.
Yeah, I've been
normally-
through all 110 pages and it looks fine.
Good.
Looks fine.
You didn't spot the error.
For me, it's very legible and it's very straightforward. And I think it's the best we can do, actually. Lovely.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
You didn't find the error.
Good photo. Well, I found two very minor points, but I don't think they're so important. But figures 1, which is the plan of the boundaries of Bingley
Yeah.
Urban District Council as was.
Yeah.
And figure 9, neither of them have a north point.
That is thinking.
But the other maps do. But it's just one of those things, really. I think they ought to have a north point so that people can
But did we
orientate.
generate them, or they've been lifted from the RUDP or something?
I don't know. I don't know.
No.
I don't know. But it's just a minor point, really, especially with figure 1, because the orientation of the boundary has to fit in that page.
If we
And
did
so it's
it,
being tilted.
yeah, well, if we
slightly.
did it, then I think you're possibly right that we could add a thing on that, add it again. But if
Yeah.
we didn't do it and we lifted it from the local plan,
Right.
then it's not ours to change.
It's just one of those.
Yeah.
those little things. I picked it out, but
Okay.
probably 99% of
Are you
it.
suggesting there is an obvious,
It's not obvious, but I did find one.
Okay.
I'm just crowing a little bit, but John didn't. So Philippa, did you have any?
I think my main comment on it is there's a couple of things really. He's obviously struggling for photos.
There's a boatload
Yeah,
of photos that
yeah.
need to be
There's a
done.
boatload of photos that are missing. But as a consequence of that, there's a few photos that are in there twice.
Yes.
And we do always seem to concentrate on the same thing. So ideally, we could do with a better, broader set of photos. If that means me and you, or we've got to go out and take some more, I think that might be what we need.
I'm getting to
The
that.
club was going to get some more photographs.
Well, we've thrown it open to Bingley Camera Club.
Yeah.
But what I don't think we've done is thrown the document out to Bingley Camera Club to put it in context, to say
All right.
that's the photo we want.
But we did put it out on the web, didn't we?
All
We got
residents, yeah.
we got quite a few photos
Yeah.
back, but I don't know if they're not what Richard was really looking for.
But what about sharing the document with Bingley Camera Club? And to say, or to go to Bingley Camera. Why don't we go to Bingley Camera Club and have a?
We probably need to tell them what we want.
That's what I'm saying. Why don't we find out when their meeting is and go
right,
and say, you know, and take a print of the pages and say, look, this is because a lot of them are in context on the pages themselves.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yes.
some of them say caption,
Yeah.
but they're related to the text
Yeah.
next to it.
it's Church House. It might be on the website, and just Google it if you could.
But if we can make a note and maybe
I think it's
Eve
Monday
can
night.
Eve can send a note to the secretary and get an invite from Philip and I to pitch up and take the document with us.
And my only other thing, which is really pedantic, is just where he's got some of the tables, and it's a white column. You don't see the definition of.
Yeah. Okay.
So you don't even need to be able to read that one, but you
Yeah.
can see where that ends, and this just sort of merges because it's white. There's no real
Right.
definition.
Did you pick that up, Lee? Did you have any problems or comments?
I haven't been able to get into the folder. It says internal users only when I click on it. So I didn't actually know the actual plan was in there. So no, I haven't seen it yet.
Whether Eve can sort that IT issue out for you.
Okay.
We'll have a go at that, Lee, because I think it is a work of beauty now, to be fair. There is.
I think that's a fair comment. Though.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a lot of an easier read.
It's very legible.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
is. I mean, there's an awful lot of information there, a lot of pages, but it's well set out.
Send me a copy.
Yeah.
And it really is good. Yeah.
My little one that I found was on page 93. It refers to table 7 on page 91, whereas in fact table 7 is on page 94. But we had a conversation last month which said that there were no references to page numbers, so it didn't matter about repaginating, but there's that one is in there, slipped in there.
I think we said there were no references to paragraphs. or
Yeah.
page numbers.
Yeah, but that's the only reference to a page number I could find, because I looked at all the tables and it says table 6 below or table 4 following, or whatever, but table 7 is the only one that says it's on page 93. But in fact, it's on page 94. Sorry, it's on page 93. It refers to page 91, but the reference should be page 94. Or changed in some. It was.
You've won the Mars.
I know. I won the Mars. I knew.
I confess I didn't look at it because I thought between the two of you.
Yeah.
there'd be nothing left.
Okay. But
I looked at the design, not the.
other than lines on tables, which we can go back to Richard and say, any thoughts on how we do that? I wouldn't want to see lines put in there like an Excel, because it just.
Well, it has for the other colours. That's the thing, not the. It's just. There is. The
Wondering whether we
definition.
can put dotted lines in and change the format or something like that.
He might just need to change the background to be the faintest grey possible, and then because it just
We'll flag your
Leads off the
concern
page,
to
if you
him
like.
and see what it says. Okay. But other than that, we're struggling for photographs. I agree with you. There's probably 15 photographs missing.
I do think so. I think.
It's
No,
quite
you
a few.
haven't come up to gaps yet.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I've seen one gap.
the
Is
big
that where
gap.
you
Yeah.
consider that there should be? Yes,
Yeah.
that's probably what you're saying. I thought you were just talking about photographs in general. It
Mm.
seems to me.
Well, there's a load of photographs in there which are new,
Yeah.
but there's one page where there's 4 photograph boxes that
Yeah.
there's
Yes.
caption required and photo added.
Yeah.
You know, so I haven't
Yeah.
counted them up, but it
Yeah,
struck
the
me as more than 10. I would have thought.
It's obviously started and used them and then gone.
Yeah. What do I do here?
Where's that? I've never seen that.
No.
What?
Yeah.
Picture radiators.
Yeah.
Okay. What about a photograph of that silly thing with switches on the side of the canal that appears on Facebook every 3 months or saying, anyone know what this is? You know, I don't know whether you guys know what I'm talking
I know what
about.
you're talking about.
Like, you know, 5 Park Road, there's that used to be the restaurant, the vaping centre, and there's a little
Oh, yeah,
cut
yeah.
down there. But just on that wall
Oh, I
there,
know what you mean. I know
there is-
exactly where you mean.
there is
yeah.
a set of rheostats or whatever,
There
and
is.
it comes up on Facebook saying, anyone know what this is?
I've looked at it a number of times.
Oh, no one knows what it is. Well, you know, photograph that in to memorialise it. Yeah,
And you might get an answer then, mightn't you?
Yeah.
well, that's a wacky photograph. That
I wonder if Alan Cattell knows.
don't know.
He's
Don't
up to one incidentally. Just for the-
Is he not?
Okay, so all in all, quite a positive feedback. Okay,
Yeah.
we had a conversation with Richard about whether he needs to do the appendices, like the buildings, like the green spaces, and we chatted over. You know, we had that open morning on the Saturday a couple of weeks back. Philip and I and Eve discussed it and said we didn't, because you can't do the PDFs which we bought in, which is the housing needs analysis,
Yeah.
the 2 ACON documents, the design code and the master plan. And there was another one kicking around that because you can't do those, they're already in a PDF. What we could do is to put the Word documents into a PDF, which we would have to do anyway. But there's no point glorifying it through the Richard Aldred
Oh,
process, because A, he didn't quote for it, B, we didn't ask for it, because we assumed they would be not as visible as appendices and the whole plan, which is the 100 pages. So I don't know. I'm guessing I'm asking for your acceptance of that position. Certainly, we as a council don't really want to spend more money doing the appendices.
Well, I think given that most of the appendices have got pictures in them, whether it be the heritage stuff with photos,
Well,
photo of the wall.
yeah, the buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we would gain anything from doing
No.
it. We may just need to go through and
Well-
ensure it PDFs nicely and all the pagination's nice. But
That's a good point. I did ask Eve to go back to him and ask about accessibility. Now, my PDF as a PDF reader, it's just Adobe Reader. It doesn't mention accessibility. Accessibility, yes. But Word does have an accessibility checker nowadays.
Yeah.
But so I've had a conversation with Richard and said, has Adobe Professional got accessibility checker, and could he add all the alternate text to all the pictures and tables? And he said he would go and have a look at it, but I haven't had any feedback from it yet. So can we?
The other thing we can do is if you set up a laptop or something, so that it reads the document to you, it should tell you what the photos are, etc. I don't know how. I've never used one in anger, so I don't know how it actually will do it. If you've got like a block of text there and a photo there, whether it tells you what the photo is at the top and then reads the text, or whether it reads the text and then tells you, or whether it just reads it across and goes in the middle of a sentence, just says photo of. I don't know, but that's what it's all for. So that if you do have one of these things that reads you the document, it will tell you what the pictures of.
Doesn't modern Microsoft do that irrespective of what PC you got or package or whatever I've got?
Well, you have to turn it on. That's the
Right.
thing in modern Microsoft. It will read the documents. Older versions won't.
No, mine won't. 2013 mine is. Okay. Lee, have you got any experience of accessibility of PDFs like neighbourhood plans?
No, it's not something I've ever had to deal with in terms of it. But I guess when you work on the figures, you tend to get the option of putting in a text descriptor at the bottom. I think that's all you're required to do. But Richard would know more, I think, because he probably does this all the time. But no, I don't have any real experience of it.
Kind of got the impression I was educating him, so I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Maybe Ian Cunningham has from a local plan, because they take it in Word, don't they? And they run it through there.
Well, they do. They put it out as HTML, don't they?
Yeah,
It's not.
yeah.
It's not a.
Not Word, but they take it in as Word, and so they'll ignore our PDF, stick it into Word, and put it through their local plan. It's a proprietary name, their software. I don't know what it is. Okay. All right. So if we can ask Richard if he got any headway with the accessibility. Okay. All right. All done.
Yep.
Okay. So consultation questions then, Philippa. Have you got anywhere with consultation questions, please?
Got a little way with it.
Okay.
I shall. I think what I'm going to do is dial in. Go up what I've got. What not, as the case may be.
Have you lost it?
You don't want me to join?
Could you email it to me?
No.
Mm.
It's an online thing.
Oh, yeah, is it like a survey? Yeah.
Oh, Survey Monkey.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Do I have to accept first? Let me accept you, mate, and then we'll see if it
And you got to log on and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Bear with then. Bear with.
This is a language that Sherry don't understand.
What? Survey Monkey. Okay, well, we were going to simplify it and ask questions about the overall plan, the overall paragraph sections within the plan, and then have a form available for detailed comments and general comments on Survey Monkey, weren't we? So we would get a whole mix of consultation responses and Likert scales, and some in terms of individual comments related to individual paragraphs, and some related to people who could be bothered to get the form from the council and fill the form and send it back. So
There's limited number of questions you can ask on Survey Monkey.
There is, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things.
So
We've
that-
got more questions than it
and-
will.
That being the case, but you then have to start deciding what sort of questions you're going to
well,
ask
we had that.
within the limited.
Yeah, we had that
Well, no,
with
'cause you can pay,
Howarth.
the thing is, you can pay. There's a free Survey Monkey that gives you 10 questions, and we've got 15 at the moment.
Well, how many did Howarth have? That was the model we were looking at, and I thought they had 9.
I don't know how many there.
So how have you got 15?
By going through our plan, I think I've lost it.
No, you've got too many questions. You're asking too many questions.
Well, we've got 12 policies,
Right.
and there was a question on each policy,
Okay.
and a question on the vision, and a question on the objectives,
Okay.
and then one other which was, I think, the last
well,
five.
that-
Do you want to have a?
To me, that sounds reasonable. Because if we've got 12 policies and we're saying, what do you think of the policies?
Lost it all.
Well, okay, you know, let's talk in general.
But
So you-
so there's two things as well from doing it. Some of the earlier stuff is relatively straightforward because you can say, here's our objectives.
Yeah.
Here's our 6 objectives. Then have a question, do you agree? Strongly agree, etc.
Yeah.
That's fairly simple. When you get into something like the design codes, it gets a lot more complicated.
Yeah, because it's a 50-page document.
It's a
Yeah,
50-page
that's
document, and
There's
it's
an awful lot
quite,
of information.
there's an awful lot of information in it. So you end up. So what I'd ended up doing was saying it's in these pages of the plan, but then the policy at the end of it is. But then some of the policies are very, very technical. So it just ended up as being a very, very simple. Do you agree? And you've got to go away and read it, which is not.
And you might agree with some of it, but not all of it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Lee's going to say, keep it simple, stupid. And, you know, don't ask 27 questions because you'll get inundated with.
Given that the design code and the master plan are both being formulated by experts like ACOM in the field.
And sold to every borough in the country.
They must be making a fortune over in California.
That's right.
Is it right that we ask for comments on those 2 items? Because these were formulated by the experts.
And they're also on the local plan, pretty much.
But it's our,
Yes.
it's our
Yeah,
policy.
yeah.
That's the
I
thing.
mean, really, what we're looking at, it surely is a return commentary on what we as a group have formulated. I mean, it's based on the design code element and the master plan element, but essentially it's what we've composed within the document itself.
I think at that point I would add the codicil that the working group recommends to the full council. It is the full council that decides what is in the plan and whether our work is satisfactory. And this is a full council which is doing the consultation, not the working group.
Sure. Yeah.
So if that gives the members of the public some
Well,
clarity.
we recommend.
Yeah, we only recommend to the council.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Okay.
so
we've thrown it up there then. Okay.
So this is currently what it looks like. So this is a free. Can't get rid of the bit on the right hand side.
Okay.
So we're asking you a set of questions. It's about the neighbourhood plan. Vision and objectives. Do you agree with the vision, what it is? I don't agree. Do you agree with objectives? Yeah. This one's a you have to answer the question just because I don't know. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. So that one you've got to answer. So do we want people to be able to dive out at any point and answer as few as possible, or do we want them to have to go through and
No idea. I've got no experience with Survey Monkey.
well, it's just it goes. We want people to, or do we want people to start it and go through? So then here you say community aspirations. I said it's those pages of the plan because again, that list of facilities we can't.
So at that point, someone would have to bug out of Survey Monkey and go and read 13 pages of the plan.
But I've said right up front that you need to have read the plan first, and you might want to have the plan open in another window just to refresh your memory. Because otherwise, what do you do? Because we've got a page for Micklethwaite, we've got a page for Gilstead, a page for Eldrick, a page for Bingley. We can't replicate it all in here.
No.
So then the questions come out as: do you agree with the approach?
Yeah.
Do you agree that the facilities for the town? So you've got to, people will have to go and look.
Can Lee see this?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Got any thoughts on this? Because it strikes me as being incredibly detailed.
Well, you've only really got two choices, haven't you? You can either ask people to comment on each policy separately, or you can just ask them to say whatever they want in relation to the plan as a whole. You can't really pick and choose which policies you want to ask people for detailed views on. So I guess you either do what's been done here, whereby you give people an opportunity to say what they think about each element of the plan, and then presumably at the end there's a comment opportunity where they can pick out any particular things that are of concern. That sounds to me sensible, to be honest. If you do it the other way, then it's a bit of a blank canvas. You know, how are people gonna? I mean, your developer will be able to respond adequately with support from their consultants, but you know, the average person is going to be presented with 100 pages plus appendices, and you're asking them to give a view on a blank piece of paper. It wouldn't really work, I don't think. Wouldn't be seen as good consultation. So I think the structured approach is fine. And at the end of the day, it's I suppose the issue is going to be where people might agree with the principle of a broad theme, but then disagree with the specific element of it. So for example, I think you mentioned the walls in Priesthorpe. People might agree with the idea that there should be local buildings and structures of interest, but then disagree with the particular ones you've chosen. So what do they put on that multiple choice answer? That's where it gets a bit complicated. So normally when I've seen this before, people can sometimes agree and then disagree in the comment box on a specific element, or they can, or then you find that because they disagree with one thing out of a list of 10, they've changed whether they agree or not to neutral or something like that. So it's you got to think about it from the point of view of the person in a situation. If they're you've got two people in the room right now, haven't you? Who've got concerns over a wall. They may think that the overall idea of identifying structures of local interest, that where possible should be maintained is a good thing. But on the other hand, may think isn't right, that you've chosen particular ones or a certain asset. So how do people in that position indicate their view? So you've got multiple choice, but you need to have a comment box alongside it in a way. Otherwise, it's difficult for them to express their view, isn't it?
I think in here it's not got a comment on each individual question. It's got a comment at the end and a full detailed comments. I
think maybe somewhere in there you need to let people know that when they indicate a view here, they've still got an opportunity to comment in a different part of the survey. Otherwise, people might get frustrated.
Yeah. Because on this one, talking about identified facilities, key ones for each village, they might agree with the Eldwick ones and disagree with the Crossflat ones.
They might.
And
yes.
We put comment boxes on everything.
Yeah, no, I get that. But what do they do there? Do they say they disagree with that, but they're happy with most of it. So yeah, I do think we need. Do we need a comment box on every?
We said we weren't going to.
No.
Which was why
the trouble is it's interpreting what the comments are.
Yeah.
I mean, when we did the first public survey, when was it? September 2019, wasn't it? And then we ran the commentary boxes, and we got all sorts of disparate comments and answers, and it was difficult to make sense out of what the generality was all about. Really, it sort of. I mean, there were 280 odd responses out of a population of 18,000. So not a big proportion, really.
Quite a few of those were your documents too big.
Yeah.
I suppose you have to bear in mind what the value of a particular element of the survey is. So when you get to the point of considering consultation responses to a land use plan sort of document, then you don't tend to decide your course of action by the weight of opinion. It's by the quality of the comment that's made that you decide how to proceed. So you could have, 100 and 200 people saying they strongly agree with something. One person could make a really valid point against it, and you have to take that into account. So people just strongly agreeing is not a planning reason, is it? It's just an expression of an opinion. So it's like when you have a particularly contentious planning application, just because 5,000 people signed a petition doesn't mean the case officer is going to say, okay, then in that case we'll refuse the application. It's all about planning reasons and planning grounds and land use planning considerations. So in a way, what people think and how many people vote for this or for that, I could see and is used by councillors and parish councils to show what people think. But in planning terms, it's of little use or weight. It's more about the comments.
We want to direct people to the comments box at pretty much every opportunity we can.
Or we put it on every question and we're just going to have to slog through it.
Yeah, I mean, if people respond in the comment box and say it's all rubbish, well, equally, you don't take that into account because it's not a meaningful comment. You can't do anything with it. You can't, what do you do with a comment like that? So you're always looking for people who've made valid points that are well considered within the framework of a land use plan. So broad expressions of opinion, broad comments that don't actually say anything meaningful don't really help.
As a user of SurveyMonkey coming at it from Joe Public, can they save halfway through?
No idea. Don't think so.
I think we need to figure out whether they can save it halfway through, because to me, if I was reading this, I'd go, well, I need to go away and look at that. So it's online, but then the wife shouts for dinner or something or other, rings the doorbell, and you're halfway through these surveys, and they
I don't know of many online surveys that you save, and most of them you throw it away and you go, I'll go and read that bit and then I'll go back and do the survey again.
No. Even if
you
we
put that as a suggestion at the start of the survey, that you suggest have a look through all the questions first, and if there's any that you feel you need to refer to the actual document itself, have a look at that first before.
I think there ought to be some rules at the front end of it, because have a piece of paper next to you to note down things, and do this, that, and the other. Otherwise, you're going to frustrate the hell out of people who really do want to comment.
I mean, we can change it however we want.
Yeah.
That's why.
How much is it to buy it from a council point of view and pay for the survey? Because what you said at the beginning was we've gone over the 10 questions.
We have, but there's other similar tools out there that we can investigate. Or
don't even go.
I got that. In terms of this, 10 questions, you've got to pay for something. Comment boxes, you've got to pay for something. So we need to work all the way through it and then see where we are and see which tool. There might be another tool out there that's free that we can use, or it might be that we pay them 25 quid or whatever it is.
It's not a lot, but we need the full council to agree.
Yeah.
And will the full council say what other options are there?
Sure they would.
I'm sure they would. You're the chair.
Yeah, I am not full council.
No. All right. Well,
so much easier.
Okay. Well,
I'll just carry on a little bit because these ones are quite simple questions and with quite simple text. But then this is
another 10 pages of the built environment.
What the hell do we do with the built environment? Because it's very complicated. It's not necessarily in language. The first sort of 4 or 5 pages, which are linking it back to national policies, is going to be way above most people's.
Yeah, I think when it gets to that stage, that will all come out of the plan.
Be a bit of a problem.
Wait a minute, let's hear what Lee just said, please. Yes, Lee.
I just said when it gets to the next stage, I think all that front end can be rationalised, and a lot of it can just fit into one chapter, and then a lot of it can come out of the plan as well, and just be standalone documents alongside. And I think we can probably rationalise some of the appendices as well. So I think this is the biggest stage. I think after this it can be rationalised a bit and slimmed down from that point of view.
But there is a lot of stuff in here that I don't think people will necessarily
No.
get for certainly first, if not 10th read through. But then the questions are just, do you agree with the design? Which seems plow your way through all this stuff and then go,
Do you agree with it?
do you agree? But the actual policy, if you look at the policy, is quite detailed with lots of different elements to it. So it's quite difficult to know how best to get that across. And then I had a bit of a change of tack, nicking the first paragraph out of most things, which this I think is too much introductory text.
Yeah.
And then a simple.
Yeah.
So the attractive environment, that will work better. And then you've got your 2 questions.
Yeah.
Is Richard providing a policies map?
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I had a discussion with him and he's on with it. He's got the map stitched together from about 6 other maps. So he's got his big A3 PDF map and he's doing layers. And we will be able to see it as a conglomerate map or separate layer maps, but we won't be able to change the layers ourselves. It's whatever he PDFs out of the system he's got. So we're just waiting.
Whether it would be useful to, like, so for example, on the green spaces, if you listed the green spaces in the survey and then said to people they could be seen on the map, then they'd know which ones they were and where they were. And then all you need to do in the intro is to say, we are proposing to designate some local green spaces. This would protect those the land from development, akin to green belt or whatever you want to say. These are the spaces we are designating. They can be seen on the map.
So you would propose listing 23 green spaces by their name, like Jerwoods and Fields in the survey?
Well, that's the only other thing would be whether or not those names make any sense to anybody. That sometimes what people know things by is not the same.
And I don't know how many character buildings there are, but they're probably 34, something like 28, something like that.
Yeah, I don't think we can just refer people out to work out where that dot is on that map, and that's what we're running. I think that's a bit.
Have you numbered them dots? Have you numbered the on the map? Are you going to just provide dots or actual physical site outlines?
So when Richard queried whether or not he was going to have to adapt the appendices, and I said no, he then queried why they were in the folder in the first place, and I said because that's the data you're going to need to create the policies map, because all the sub maps for the various layers are actually in those appendices. And then the sort of a light went on and he said, right, I get it. So he's off. And he said it wouldn't be difficult to do that, and he was going to try to do it by tonight. But presumably sent that in, has he? Eve, it's just not in that. So we need to chase him for the policies map. Yeah, we are going to do that. But going back to this thing, I don't want to put in 28 buildings and 23 green spaces. I want people to go away and read the plan and appreciate it for what it is and what it's seeking to do, and read it holistically rather than just to focus in on one small part of it.
Yes, otherwise it gets far too detailed.
So this box 16 then, we did have a theory that if people wanted to comment generally or specifically on the plan, they should ask the clerk for a form and do it. And that's the sort of form we use for the informal consultation.
Yeah. Which is what that bit there is.
Is that what that bit does?
Almost getting at where there would be a link there if we took to wherever it was.
Oh, which can be fair. Yeah, maternity. Yes, because Haworth found that, for instance, the Train Society gave them a very detailed update, and the statutory consultees would probably do the same if they were bothered about particular elements of it. Yeah. And then your general, then the general comments on the plan there is that's where we all get the it's too big, it's too boring, I couldn't read it, it's too legalese, didn't like the photographs, those sorts of things, weren't we? Yes. Okay. Well, don't know. What do people think now they've seen it? Thoughts?
I think it's okay.
I think it's okay.
Simply.
What I'd like to see is it printed on PDFs and circulated.
Right.
That
I couldn't work out how to do that.
might.
I'll have another more
There
detail.
must be some way of getting it off.
Don't know. It's not meant to be printed. So,
No,
I will see what I can do.
no. I wouldn't have thought you want to screen print it all and put it in a Word document, but that's a possibility.
That is a possibility.
Cut and paste it into a Word document.
Because at the moment, obviously, because it exceeds their freebies, you can't even issue it out. Because what I was originally going to do was just send it to everybody
To try it.
to try it.
Well, can you find out how much it costs?
I could split it into two and send you one that's the first 10 questions.
I was just looking it up while you were talking, and the cheapest plan is £25 a month.
So you have to subscribe.
Yeah, I
Software.
don't know what the minimum, if there's a minimum term or anything like that, or if there's restrictions on, organisations as opposed to individuals or any of that business. But the cheapest plan they have, which allows 3 users, is £25 a month.
Used another version, and not this, but something else for something else we've done. So that's what Deb's used something else for allotments and
Yeah.
so we can see what that can do, because I think she went from this to that because she had more than 10 questions.
Right. Okay. All righty. So still over with you then, Philippa, yes?
Yep.
Yeah,
Right.
good. Well accepted. Anything else on consultation questions, or shall we move on, because we have got 2 months more to go? Okay. Timescales then, still end of May before we get a reformatted neighbourhood plan working group?
Yeah.
That true? May the 6th we all get elected or not? Then the lay members have to be accepted by the parish council. So it could be June again before we actually get to meet.
It probably will be, won't it? Because if you think the meeting in May is
The meeting in May is the
17th.
annual town meeting.
the
and
annual meeting of the council,
yeah, annual meeting of the council, which will be very full of other things. And it's people putting their hand up to sit on this group. And then we've got to ask the lay members if they're prepared to stand again.
Yep.
Once we have
And everyone's
Yep.
availability.
You can't get rid of me.
No,
We'll try.
It's a question really of, are we happy with the survey, or do we want to meet again prior to the new council, so that we've bottomed out exactly what the survey says, what it looks like, what we're happy with, so
I think
we
if you can get it off
so we
and get,
bring something over
yeah.
that's complete, that a new council can just
I think we
work
ought to
with.
meet again in April, certainly. But if only to have an abridged agenda to do that particular item.
Yeah.
Because if we don't need draft neighbourhood plan if we know that we're not doing anything about it. Well, the meeting's only got,
I know.
it's only got 2 items on it anyway, because we're in wait mode, aren't we?
Mm.
But if we can find out competitors to Survey Monkey, cost to Survey Monkey, whether you have to take a year's subscription of it, or whether we can just have it for 3 months and do the Reg 14 and then bin it, or whether we have to keep it as a record. That would be another interesting point for 7 years of evidence of our consultation.
Well, no, we'd have to download the results.
Well, can we?
It's
Yeah.
it's the other thing we need to check out.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, if we can find some more things out about SurveyMonkey in the meantime, and say timescales, we'll have a meeting in April, and really just talk about the what we should have the policies map, and this timescales is we don't meet again until June. Okay, so approach events. Well, we've talked about in the minutes about 8 weeks of surveys and various venues. So I don't propose we do that again. That's decided. Okay. All right. So shall I move on?
Mhm.
Next meeting of this working group then in April. So diaries out, please, people. I've got a funeral to attend to, and that means I won't be at the April full council, Philippa. I should be down in London attending a funeral.
That's 25th.
That's the 25th. So what about the 18th if there's nothing going on in the civic diary?
What day is that?
That's a Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Only because it's a Tuesday today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thought
Nothing else as yet.
There isn't any.
No.
Blimey.
Blimey. So shall we say 18th of April?
Yeah.
You okay with that, Lee?
Yes.
Good. Okay. That was easy. Right. Okay. Thank you very much. We're not going to exclude the press and public, which we're not going to talk about anything in confidence. So I deem this meeting closed. Thank you so much, everybody.
Well, it's exciting, wasn't it for you?
Happy Easter, Lou.
Yes. Yes.
Happy Easter to you too. Yeah, we have a good break.
Okay.